Maya always knew she was the forgettable one in the family. Not in a dramatic, tragic way, just in that quiet, matter-of-fact way that some people accept about themselves. Her older sister Isabella was the star. Beautiful, confident, successful. The kind of person who walked into a room and everyone noticed. Maya didn't resent it. Well, maybe a little. But mostly she'd made peace with being the responsible one. The quiet one. The one who helped Mom with groceries while Isabella jetted off to business conferences in silk dresses and designer heels. So when Isabella came home one evening with a massive diamond ring and a grin that could light up the whole neighborhood, Maya was genuinely happy for her. Their parents practically threw a party right there in the kitchen. Dad started crying. Mom called every relative she could think of. The man who'd put that ring on Isabella's finger was Alexander Chen, self-made millionaire, tech entrepreneur, and somehow still one of the most down-to-earth people Maya had ever met. She'd met him a few times at family dinners, and he never acted like he was better than anyone. He asked Maya about her graduate studies. He helped Dad fix the kitchen sink. He brought Mom flowers for no reason. Maya remembered thinking at one of those dinners that Isabella was lucky. Not because of the money. Because Alexander looked at her sister like she hung the moon, and Isabella looked at him the same way. The engagement party was beautiful. Held at some fancy hotel with chandeliers and a chocolate fountain. Maya wore a borrowed dress and spent most of the evening making sure the older relatives had chairs, and the younger cousins weren't running wild. That was her role. The helper. The background person. She remembered hugging Isabella goodbye that night. Her sister smelled like expensive perfume and champagne. "Love you, little sis," Isabella had whispered. "You'll find your person too, I promise." Those were the last words her sister ever said to her. The phone call came at 2 in the morning. Maya's mother was screaming so loud that at first Maya couldn't understand the words, just raw animal sounds of grief. Her father grabbed the phone and his voice cracked as he said it plain. "There was an accident. Isabella's gone." The next few hours felt like moving through thick fog. The hospital. The fluorescent lights. The doctor with tired eyes explaining that a drunk driver had run a red light. That Isabella had died on impact. That there was nothing anyone could have done, and Alexander had survived, barely. He was in surgery. Critical condition. Internal injuries, broken bones, severe head trauma. Maya sat in that waiting room for 14 hours. Her parents sobbed. Relatives came and went. Alexander's family arrived, a small, elegant grandmother in a wheelchair, some cousins, a business partner who looked shell-shocked. When the surgeon finally came out, his face said everything before his mouth did. Alexander had survived the surgery, but he'd slipped into a coma. They didn't know when or if he'd wake up. Could be days, could be weeks, could be never. Maya started visiting Alexander in the ICU after Isabella's funeral. She wasn't sure why at first. Maybe because looking at him, still and peaceful under white sheets, was easier than looking at Isabella's empty chair at home. Maybe because she felt like someone should be there. The machines beeped steadily. Nurses came and went. Maya would sit there and talk to him sometimes. Stupid stuff. How the weather was. What book she was reading. How much she missed Isabella. She didn't know if he could hear her. The doctor said maybe. Maybe not. 2 weeks after the funeral, Maya's parents called her into the living room. Their faces looked strange. Nervous. Almost excited in a way that made Maya's stomach turn. Alexander's grandmother, Mrs. Chen, was there. And Alexander's business partner, James, and a lawyer. "Maya, sweetheart," her mother started, using that voice she used when she wanted something. "Mrs. Chen has something very important to discuss with you." The old woman rolled her wheelchair closer. Her eyes were kind but sharp. She looked at Maya like she was solving a puzzle. "My grandson is vulnerable right now," Mrs. Chen said. Her accent was slight, her words careful. "His business is worth hundreds of millions. And his uncle, a very greedy man, is trying to take control, claiming Alexander is incapacitated, trying to make medical decisions, trying to seize his companies." Maya nodded slowly, not understanding what this had to do with her. "If Alexander were married," Mrs. Chen continued, "his spouse would have the legal right to make medical decisions, the legal standing to protect his interests. His uncle would have no claim." The room went very quiet. Maya looked around at the faces. Her mother was nodding eagerly. Her father couldn't meet her eyes. James, the business partner, looked uncomfortable. You want me to marry him? Maya said flatly. It wasn't a question. It would protect Alexander, Mrs. Chen said. It would honor what he and Isabella wanted. Family unity. And I'm old, child, very old. I want to see my grandson married before I die. I want to know he's protected. Maya stood up. He's in a coma. This is insane. It's legal, the lawyer said quickly. With proper medical documentation and power of attorney, it's completely legal. Maya. Her mother grabbed her hand. Think about what Isabella would want. She'd want Alexander protected. She'd want family taking care of him. Then you marry him, Maya shot back. Her father finally spoke. We're drowning in debt, Maya. The medical bills for your grandmother. The mortgage. If you do this, if you help this family, we could finally breathe. There it was. The real reason. Not honor, not protection. Money. You're selling me, Maya said quietly. We're asking you to do the right thing, her mother said, and actually looked offended. For Alexander, for Isabella's memory, for this family, Maya left. She walked out and didn't come back for 3 days. But her phone never stopped ringing. Her mother crying about the mortgage, her father saying she was selfish, her aunts calling to say what an opportunity this was, how lucky she was, how ungrateful she'd be to refuse. Mrs. Chen called once. Just once. I will not force you, the old woman said. But my grandson is a good man. He needs protection. I believe you have a good heart. I believe Isabella trusted you. I am simply asking. The choice is yours, but was it? When your family threatens to disown you? When they call you selfish for not marrying a man in a coma? When they say you're spitting on your dead sister's memory? Maya stood in Alexander's hospital room at 3 a.m. The machines beeped. His chest rose and fell. He looked peaceful. Younger somehow, without the weight of consciousness. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. She called her mother the next morning. I'll do it, she said, and hated herself for every word. I'll marry him. The wedding was scheduled for the following week. Maya threw up twice that morning. She wore a simple white dress someone brought her. She stood in a private hospital chapel with a handful of people watching. The officiant read the vows. Maya repeated them to a man who couldn't hear her, who couldn't consent, who had no idea that the girl who used to bring extra dessert to family dinners was now becoming his wife. Alexander lay in his hospital bed, wheeled in for the ceremony. Tubes and wires and machines. Maya slid the ring onto his finger. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped it. You may kiss the groom, the officiant said awkwardly. Maya leaned down and pressed her lips to Alexander's forehead. He was warm, alive, and married to a stranger. When she signed the marriage certificate, her signature looked nothing like her normal handwriting, like someone else had taken over her hand. That night, Maya sat in Alexander's massive penthouse apartment. The walls were covered with photos of him and Isabella, engagement pictures, vacation photos. Isabella's clothes still hung in the closet. Wedding planning binders sat on the dining room table, pages marked with sticky notes in Isabella's handwriting. Maya sat on the floor of the guest bedroom and cried until she had nothing left. She'd just married her dead sister's fiancé, a man who'd never chosen her, a man who might never wake up, a man who, if he did wake up, would probably hate her for this. She was a wife, a millionaire's wife technically, but she'd never felt more alone in her entire life. The first morning in Alexander's penthouse, Maya woke up confused. The ceiling was wrong. The light came in from the wrong direction. Then she remembered, and the weight of it pressed down on her chest like a physical thing. She was married. To a man in a coma, in her dead sister's apartment. The coffee maker was one of those fancy ones that looked like it belonged in a spaceship. Maya stared at it for 10 minutes before giving up and making instant coffee in the microwave. She sat at the kitchen island, drinking from a mug that said "World's Okayest Golfer," and wondered whose joke that had been. Alexander's? Isabella's? Her phone buzzed. Her mother. Have you talked to the bank yet? We need help with the mortgage payment. Maya deleted the message without responding. The lawyer had explained everything the day after the wedding. Joint bank accounts, access to funds for household expenses and Alexander's care. A monthly allowance that was more money than Maya had seen in her entire life. But most of Alexander's assets were in trusts and business holdings, protected, smart. Maya didn't touch the money. Not at first. She kept using her own student account with its sad $200 balance. She took the bus to the hospital instead of calling the driver the lawyer mentioned. She couldn't shake the feeling that using Alexander's money was like stealing. But going to the hospital became her routine. Every day at 2 in the afternoon, right after her online classes finished. She'd sit in that chair next to his bed with the smell of antiseptic and the sound of machines, and she'd talk. At first, it felt stupid, talking to someone who couldn't hear you. But the nurses said it might help. That coma patient sometimes could hear somewhere deep down. So Maya talked. She told him about her classes, about the book she was reading, about how the coffee maker in his apartment hated her. Stupid small things. She couldn't bring herself to talk about Isabella yet. That hurt too much. Your grandmother came by yesterday, Maya said one afternoon, pulling her chair closer. She brought soup. I think she's trying to fatten me up. She says I'm too skinny. Maya paused. She's really worried about you. Everyone is. Alexander's face never changed. Peaceful, still, young without the worry lines that came with consciousness. I'm sorry, Maya whispered. She said it every day. Sorry for the marriage he didn't choose. Sorry she couldn't save Isabella. Sorry for existing in this space that should have belonged to her sister. James, Alexander's business partner, started coming by the hospital too. He'd update Maya on things she didn't understand. Stock prices, board meetings, investor calls, his uncle's lawsuits. You don't need to tell me all this, Maya said one day. I don't know anything about business, James smiled. He was young, maybe 30, with tired eyes and the kind of suit that probably cost more than Maya's car. You're his wife. You should know what's happening with his company, and frankly, you're the only thing keeping his uncle from tearing it all apart. That felt heavy, wrong, like she was playing a role in a movie she never auditioned for. But then something happened, small at first. James mentioned that one of Alexander's companies had a big contract coming up with a school district, technology for underfunded schools. Alexander really cared about that project, James said. Education access. He grew up poor, you know. Wanted to help kids who started where he did. Maya felt something shift in her chest. She'd known Alexander was wealthy. She hadn't known his story. That night, she went home and found his office. She'd been avoiding it, like touching his personal space was crossing a line. But now she opened the door and looked around. Books, so many books. Business stuff, sure, but also novels, poetry, philosophy. A notebook on his desk, filled with handwriting that made her throat tight because it was his handwriting, his thoughts, his private world. She opened it carefully. Read the first page. Things I want to do when I have time. Start a real scholarship program, not just throwing money at schools. Find kids like I was and give them actual support, a mentor, resources, a chance. Maya sat in his desk chair and cried. Not for herself this time. For this person she was starting to know. This person who'd been planning a future that would never happen. The next morning she called James. That education project Alexander was working on. I want to do it. Make it happen. There was a long pause. Maya, you don't have to. I want to. Tell me what needs to be done, so she learned. God, did she learn? About nonprofits and tax structures and grant writing and educational equity. She met with James and lawyers and eventually started sitting in on board meetings over video calls. She was terrified at first. These were powerful people in expensive suits talking about millions of dollars. But then she'd think about that notebook, about Alexander's dream, and she'd speak up. This isn't just about donating computers, Maya said in one meeting, her voice shaking slightly. It's about changing lives. Alexander wanted mentorship, real support. If we're going to do this, we do it right. The board approved the budget. The Alexander Chen Educational Foundation was born. Maya threw herself into it, working late nights, coordinating with schools, screening mentor applications. It felt good, like she was doing something real, something that mattered, but her family didn't see it that way. When are you helping us with the mortgage? Her mother demanded on the phone. I told you I'm not using his money for personal stuff. You're his wife. That makes it your money. I'm his wife on paper, Mom. I'm not stealing from a man in a coma. Her father started showing up at the penthouse, letting himself in with the key Maya had stupidly given him, making himself comfortable, hinting about investments he wanted to make. Business opportunities, just small loans. Maya changed the locks. Her parents called her selfish, ungrateful. said she'd forgotten where she came from. Her aunt stopped inviting her to family events. Cousins unfriended her on social media. It hurt. But also somewhere deep down, Maya felt lighter. Like cutting those strings had released pressure she didn't know she'd been carrying. 3 months into the marriage, Mrs. Chen's health started declining. Maya visited her often, bringing soup and books. The old woman would hold Maya's hand with her thin, cold fingers and talk about Alexander as a child. He was always trying to fix things, Mrs. Chen said, smiling at memories. Broken toys. Broken people. He has a good heart. Too good sometimes. People take advantage. I'm not taking advantage, Maya said quietly. Mrs. Chen squeezed her hand. I know, child. I see how you care for him, how you protect his dreams. You think I don't notice? Maya felt tears burn her eyes. I didn't want this. Any of this, I know. But you're making something beautiful from something terrible. That takes strength. At the hospital, Maya's routine continued. She'd sit and read to Alexander now. Books from his shelf. She started with a poetry collection that looked well-worn, then moved to novels. She'd read until her voice got tired, until visiting hours ended. The nurses started knowing her by name, bringing her coffee, sharing updates about small improvements. A reflex here, better brain activity there, nothing major. But signs that he was still in there somewhere. You're here more than most spouses I've seen, one nurse commented. Even the ones who are actually, in love. Maya didn't know what to say to that. Was she in love? No, that would be crazy. You couldn't love someone you didn't really know. Someone who'd been meant for your sister. But she cared. God help her, she cared whether he woke up. Whether he got better. Whether he'd ever get to see his foundation helping kids. She found herself telling him about it one evening. We placed our first round of mentors today. 15 kids in the program. One of them, this girl named Keisha, she wants to be an engineer. Her school barely has science equipment, but she's so smart, Alexander. So driven. The kind of kid you wanted to help. Maya paused, looking at his still face. I wish you could meet her. I wish you could see what we're building. It's yours, really. Your dream. I'm just trying to keep it alive until you can take over again. The machines beeped steadily. No response. Never a response. Maya leaned back in her chair, exhausted. I know you're going to hate me when you wake up. If you wake up. I know this whole situation is wrong and weird and not what anyone wanted. But I'm trying. I'm really trying to do right by you. She closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, she could swear his hand had shifted slightly. Probably her imagination. She'd been seeing movement where there wasn't any for months now. But she held his hand anyway. Just for a moment. His skin was warm, alive. Somewhere in there, Alexander Chen was still fighting. Still trying to come back. Keep fighting, Maya whispered. Please keep fighting. That night, back at the penthouse, Maya sat at his desk and added to his notebook. On a new page, in her own handwriting, she wrote, First 15 scholarships awarded. Keisha wants to be an engineer. Michael wants to study computer science. Rosa wants to be a teacher. They're all brilliant. You'd be proud. I'm trying to make you proud. She didn't know why she did it. He'd probably never read it. But it felt like a conversation. Like she was talking to the person he'd been, keeping his dreams warm until he could come back to claim them. If he came back. Maya fell asleep at his desk that night, her head on her arms, exhausted but feeling something she hadn't felt in months. Purpose, like maybe, just maybe, she was exactly where she needed to be. Maya was reading poetry to Alexander when his finger moved, not the small twitches she'd imagined over the past 5 months. An actual deliberate movement. His index finger curled against her palm. She dropped the book. Alexander? His eyelids fluttered. After 5 months of stillness, that tiny movement felt like an earthquake. Nurse. Maya's voice came out as a strangled shout. Someone help! The next 72 hours were chaos. Doctors rushing in and out, tests and scans and careful, measured optimism. Alexander's eyes opened briefly, then closed again. Opened longer. His fingers squeezed when asked. Then his hand. Then he was tracking movement with his eyes. Maya stayed the entire time. She called Mrs. Chen, who arrived crying and praying in Mandarin. She called James, who showed up within an hour. She didn't call her parents. On the 3rd day, Alexander's eyes opened and stayed open. Really open. Aware. He looked around the hospital room with confusion, then growing panic. His mouth moved, but no sound came out at first. His throat was too damaged from the breathing tube. A nurse gave him ice chips. Helped him sip water. His voice, when it finally came, was rough and broken. "What happened?" The doctor explained gently. "The accident. The coma, 5 months." The words landed like bombs. Maya watched Alexander's face cycle through disbelief, horror, confusion. His eyes found her. Standing in the corner of the room. "Who are you?" he asked. It shouldn't have hurt. He'd been unconscious for their entire relationship. But somehow it did. "I'm Maya, Isabella's sister." Something flickered in his eyes at Isabella's name. "Where is she?" "Where's Isabella?" The room went silent. The doctor looked at Maya. The nurse looked at the floor. Mrs. Chen closed her eyes. Maya wanted to run. To disappear. To be anywhere but here, having to say these words. But she stepped forward instead. "Alexander, I'm so sorry. Isabella didn't make it. She died in the accident. She'd seen grief before. At the funeral. In her parents' faces. In the mirror. But watching it crash over someone in real time was different. Alexander's face crumpled. His breathing got fast and shallow. Machines started beeping. Nurses had to give him something to calm down. He slept after that. When he woke again hours later, his eyes were red and swollen. Maya was still there, sitting in her usual chair. "It's real?" His voice was barely a whisper. "She's really gone?" "Yes, I'm so sorry." He turned his face away from her. His shoulders shook silently. Maya sat there, helpless, watching this stranger grieve the woman they'd both loved. The next few days were about physical recovery. Physical therapy to get his muscles working again. Speech therapy. Occupational therapy. Alexander threw himself into it with an intensity that worried his doctors. Maya stayed back, giving him space but always nearby if he needed anything. Mrs. Chen was the one who told him about the marriage. Maya had begged her to wait, but the old woman insisted it had to come from family. Maya wasn't in the room when he found out, but she heard the shouting. The crash of something being thrown. When Mrs. Chen came out, she looked exhausted and sad. "He wants to see you," she said to Maya. "Be patient with him." Alexander was sitting up in bed when Maya entered. His face was hard, angry. "Is it true?" Maya nodded. There was no point in denying it. "We're married," he said it flat. "Not a question." "An accusation, yeah. How?" His voice was rising. "How does someone marry a person in a coma? How is that even legal?" "It is. With power of attorney and medical documentation, it's legal." "Did I ask for this?" He was really yelling now. "Did I consent? Did I have any say?" "No." Maya's voice was quiet. "You didn't. Then how could you?" He looked at her like she was something disgusting. "My fiancé just died. Your sister just died. And you what, saw an opportunity? Saw a rich guy who couldn't say no? It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like, Maya?" He spat her name like a curse. "Explain it to me." "Make it make sense," so she did. She told him everything. His uncle's lawsuits, the business threats, the pressure from both families, her parents' debts and manipulation, Mrs. Chen's request, how she didn't want to do it, how she felt sick about it every single day. "I offered to leave immediately," Maya said when she finished. Her voice was steady even though her hands were shaking. "The lawyers can start annulment paperwork today. I'll move out. You'll never have to see me again." Alexander stared at her for a long moment. Some of the anger had drained from his face, replaced by exhaustion. "You're serious? You didn't want this either." "I hated it. I still hate it. I felt like I was betraying Isabella and stealing her life. Every single day felt wrong." He closed his eyes. "But you stayed. Your grandmother asked me to. And you needed someone to make medical decisions, to protect your company. I tried to do what was right. My company." He laughed bitterly. "How bad is it?" "James has been managing it and I've been helping where I could." His eyes opened. "You've been helping run my company?" "Not really. Just protecting it from your uncle. And I started something, a foundation, for education. It was something you wanted to do." She pulled out her phone, showed him the website. "It's called the Alexander Chen Educational Foundation. We have 15 students in the first class. I used your notes, your plans. I hope that's okay." He took the phone, scrolling through pages with a strange expression. "You did this while I was in a coma." "I thought." I thought if I couldn't give you your life back, at least I could keep your dreams alive. Alexander handed back the phone. He looked confused now, like she'd given him a puzzle he couldn't solve. I don't understand you. You don't have to. Like I said, I'll leave. Today if you want. Maya, wait. Mrs. Chen's voice came from the doorway. She wheeled herself in, looking frailer than Maya had seen her. Before anyone leaves, there's something you both need to know. She explained the business situation in detail. How Alexander's uncle had filed new lawsuits the moment news of Alexander's awakening became public. How he was claiming the marriage was fraud. How dissolving it now would give him legal ammunition. The company's board was divided. Investors were nervous. There was millions of dollars and thousands of jobs at stake. I'm not asking you to stay married forever, Mrs. Chen said. Just 6 months. Let Alexander recover fully. Stabilize the business. Then make your choice with clear heads. That's not fair, Maya said. You can't ask him to stay married to someone he doesn't even know. Someone he doesn't want. And you can't ask her to keep living a lie, Alexander added, and Maya looked at him surprised. Was he defending her? Mrs. Chen's eyes were sharp despite her frail body. I'm asking you both to think beyond yourselves. About the employees who depend on this company. About the students in that foundation. About making smart decisions instead of emotional ones. Alexander ran his hand through his hair. It had grown long during the coma. This is insane. I know, Maya said quietly. My fiancé is dead. I've lost 5 months of my life, and I'm apparently married to her little sister who I barely know. I know. And my grandmother wants us to just, what? Pretend to be married for 6 more months? Mrs. Chen shook her head. Not pretend, just be. Live in the same space. Give it time. Let Alexander heal. Let the business stabilize. Then decide. What if I decide I want the annulment now? Alexander asked. Then we begin the process, Mrs. Chen said simply. I won't force you. Neither of you. But I'm asking you to think about it. Sleep on it. Don't make choices from a place of anger and grief. After she left, the room was silent. Maya stood awkwardly near the door. Alexander stared at the ceiling. I have a lot of physical therapy ahead, he finally said. Months of recovery. I'm not even sure when I can leave the hospital. I'll move out of the penthouse, Maya offered. You can recover there in peace. Where will you go? I'll figure something out. He looked at her then. Really looked at her. My grandmother likes you. She's been kind to me, that's rare. She doesn't usually like people. He paused. James told me you've been visiting every day. For 5 months, Maya shrugged. Someone should be there. Why you, though? Why not just let the nurses handle it? She didn't have a good answer. I don't know. It felt like the right thing to do. Alexander was quiet for a long time. I need to think about all of this. It's too much to process right now. Of course, but don't move out yet. Not until I can actually think straight. He met her eyes. 6 months. We'll try what my grandmother suggested. Not as a real marriage. Just as, I don't know, 2 people in an impossible situation trying to do the right thing. You're sure? No, I'm not sure about anything right now. But burning everything down while I can barely walk seems stupid. He smiled tiredly. Maybe I'll hate you less once my brain isn't foggy from 5 months of coma. Maybe. Maya smiled back slightly. Or maybe you'll hate me more once you're thinking clearly. That's a distinct possibility. They sat in awkward silence. Not friends. Not enemies. Just 2 people tangled in grief and circumstance trying to find their way through darkness. For what it's worth, Maya said quietly as she stood to leave. I really am sorry. About all of it, Alexander nodded. Me too. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't understanding. But it was something. A fragile truce in the wreckage of their impossible situation. Maya left the hospital that evening as the sun was setting. She sat in her car in the parking lot and let herself cry. For Isabella. For Alexander. For herself. For this mess that nobody wanted but everyone was stuck in. Her phone buzzed. A text from Alexander. Just 3 words. Thank you. For everything. Maya stared at those words for a long time. Then she drove back to the penthouse. To the home that wasn't really hers. To wait for a man who was her husband but wasn't. To figure out how to survive the next 6 months without falling apart completely. Alexander came home from the hospital 3 weeks later. Maya had prepared the guest room for him, making sure everything he might need was within easy reach. She'd even bought one of those grabber tools for picking things up without bending. He stood in the doorway of the penthouse looking like a stranger in his own home, thinner than before, moving carefully like his body might betray him. His eyes swept over the familiar space and landed on Maya. "So," he said, "how does this work?" Maya had thought about this constantly. "I stay in the guest room. You take the master bedroom. We stay out of each other's way as much as possible. I'll keep visiting the foundation office during the day. You'll do your physical therapy. We'll just coexist. Like roommates." Like roommates, Maya agreed. It was awkward at first. Painfully awkward. They'd pass each other in the hallway and both freeze, unsure who should move first. They'd both reach for the coffee maker at the same time and apologize too much. Dinner was silent meals eaten quickly, eyes on plates. But slowly things shifted. It started small. Alexander couldn't quite reach a glass on the top shelf one morning. Maya saw him struggling and got it down for him without thinking. He mumbled thanks. The next day she made extra coffee and left a cup for him. He texted her a thumbs-up emoji. 2 weeks in, they had their first real conversation. Maya was working at the dining table, laptop open, buried in grant applications. Alexander came out of his room using his cane and sat across from her. "Tell me about the foundation," he said. So she did. She showed him the website, the student profiles, the mentor matches. She told him about Keisha, who wanted to be an engineer, about Michael, who was building computers from spare parts, about Rosa, who tutored younger kids in math. Alexander listened, really listened. His expression changed as she talked. Less guarded, almost warm. "This is what I wanted," he said quietly. "Exactly what I wanted." "How did you know?" "Your notebook. The one in your office. I hope you don't mind that I read it." He shook his head. "I don't mind. I'm just surprised you cared enough to make it happen. Your dreams deserve to survive. Even if—" Maya trailed off, not sure how to finish that sentence. "Even if I didn't," Alexander finished for her. He smiled slightly. "But I did. Thanks to you. Thanks to the doctors. And thanks to you. James told me you were there every day, that you fought for my treatment, that you wouldn't let anyone give up on me." Maya felt her cheeks warm. Anyone would have done the same. "No," Alexander said. "They wouldn't have. My own uncle was trying to pull the plug to get control of the company faster. You barely knew me and you showed up every single day for 5 months." They looked at each other across the table. Something unspoken passed between them. Not quite friendship. Not quite gratitude. Something more complicated. After that, things got easier. They started eating dinner together, actually talking. Alexander told her about building his first company in his garage. Maya told him about her graduate research on urban education inequality. They discovered they both loved the same terrible reality TV show and started watching it together, making fun of the contestants. Alexander's physical therapy was brutal. Some days he'd come home exhausted and frustrated, barely able to make it to the couch. Maya learned to read those days. She'd order his favorite takeout, put on a comedy show, and just be there without asking questions. Other days were better. He was getting stronger, walking without the cane, doing more. He started sitting in on foundation board meetings, offering insights that made Maya realize just how brilliant he actually was. "You're a natural at this," he told her after one meeting. "The way you advocate for these kids, the passion in your voice, that's not something you can teach." "I learned from your notes," Maya said. "No, this is all you. You could have just cut checks and called it charity. Instead, you built something real, something that actually helps people." The compliment made her feel warm for hours afterward. 3 months into living together, Maya's father showed up unannounced. She answered the door to find him standing there with that familiar expression. The one that meant he wanted something. "Maya, sweetheart, we need to talk about the family situation." "I'm not giving you money, Dad." His face hardened. "That's harsh. We're family. Your mother is sick with worry about the bills. Your cousins need help with college. You're sitting in this penthouse acting like you're too good for us now. I'm acting like someone who won't enable your gambling debts and bad investments. How dare you?" His voice got loud. "After everything we've done for you, raised you, loved you, and this is how you repay us? You pressured me into marrying a man in a coma so you could get money." Maya's voice was shaking but firm. "That's not love. That's manipulation. You ungrateful little—" "I think you should leave." Alexander's voice came from behind Maya. He'd come out of his office and his face was hard. She asked you to go. So go. This is family business, Maya's father said. Stay out of it. She's my wife. That makes it my business. Alexander moved to stand next to Maya. And from what I've heard, you've been bleeding her dry since the day we got married. That ends now. Maya's father looked between them, calculating. Then he pointed at Maya. You'll regret this. When we cut you off completely, don't come crying back to us. I won't, Maya said. And she meant it. After he left, Maya realized she was shaking. Alexander gently guided her to the couch. Are you okay? He asked. I don't know. That was my father. My family. Family doesn't treat people like ATMs. Maya laughed, but it came out broken. I know, I've known for a while. It's just hard to accept. They sat in silence. Then Alexander did something unexpected. He put his arm around her shoulders. Just a brief, awkward side hug, but it was the first time he'd voluntarily touched her since waking up. You're stronger than you think, he said. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about that hug. About how natural it felt sitting next to Alexander. About how she'd started looking forward to their dinners together. About how his smile made her day better. And then the guilt crashed over her like a wave. This was Isabella's fiancé, her sister's man. The person Isabella had loved more than anything. What kind of person developed feelings for their dead sister's boyfriend? She started avoiding Alexander after that. Made excuses to eat in her room. Stayed late at the foundation office. Kept conversations brief and polite, Alexander noticed. Of course he noticed. Did I do something wrong? He asked one evening, cornering her in the kitchen. No, I'm just busy with work. Maya, come on. We were actually becoming friends. Now you won't even look at me. It's complicated. Then uncomplicated. Talk to me, so she did. Not about her feelings, but about the guilt. About feeling like she was living Isabella's life. Sleeping in Isabella's apartment. Working with Isabella's fiancé. How wrong all of it felt. Alexander was quiet for a long moment. You think I don't feel guilty too? Every time I laugh at something you say, I think about how I should be laughing with Isabella. Every time I enjoy your company, I feel like I'm betraying her memory. So what do we do? Maya's voice was small. I don't know. But running from each other isn't the answer. We're in this together whether we like it or not. We might as well be honest. Honest about what? Alexander looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. About the fact that somewhere along the way this stopped feeling like an arrangement. That I actually like having you around. That you're not just Isabella's little sister anymore. You're Maya, and I'm starting to know who that is. Maya's heart was pounding. Alexander, I'm not saying I know what this is. I'm not saying it's right or fair or what anyone would want. But I can't keep pretending I don't care about you. That I don't wonder what you're doing when you're not here. That I don't miss you when you hide in your room. We can't, Maya whispered. It's wrong. Isabella is gone, his voice cracked. And I loved her. God, I loved her so much it hurts to breathe sometimes. But she's gone. And you're here, and I don't know what that means or what we're supposed to do about it. Maya felt tears on her cheeks. I can't be her replacement. You're not. You're nothing like her. That's the thing. I'm not confusing you for Isabella. I'm drawn to who you are. The person who visits coma patients every day, who builds foundations from scratch, who stands up to her own family. That person. Maya. They stood there in the kitchen, both crying, both confused, both carrying more guilt than any two people should have to bear. What do we do? Maya asked. I think we need space. Real space. To figure out what's real and what's just circumstance and grief and proximity. Maya nodded. You're right. I'll move to the guest room. You stay in the master. We'll give each other distance, time to think. And if the feelings don't go away, Alexander smiled sadly. Then we deal with that when we get there. But that night, lying in separate rooms, both of them knew the truth. The feelings weren't going away. The question was whether they could live with them, whether loving each other was honoring Isabella's memory or destroying it, whether they were brave enough to choose happiness over guilt, and neither of them had an answer. Maya moved out 3 days later. Not far, just to a small apartment across town. Close enough to still work on the foundation, far enough to actually breathe. The apartment was tiny compared to the penthouse. 1 bedroom, a kitchen the size of a closet, a couch that had seen better days. But it was hers. Not Isabella's, not Alexander's, hers. She unpacked slowly, carefully, each item finding its place. For the first time in months, she felt like she could think clearly. Alexander texted that first night. "You settled in okay?" "Yeah, it's small but good." "I'm glad." They agreed not to see each other for 2 months. No visits, no dinners. Just text updates about the foundation and necessary business. Space to figure out what was real. Maya threw herself into therapy. She found a grief counselor who specialized in complicated family dynamics. Sitting in that office, talking to a stranger, Maya finally let herself fall apart properly. "I feel like I stole my sister's life," she told the therapist, her fiancé. "Her apartment, her dreams. What kind of person does that?" "A person who was manipulated and pressured," the therapist said gently. "You didn't steal anything. You were put in an impossible situation. But I have feelings for him now. That's wrong, isn't it?" "Why is it wrong?" "Because he was Isabella's." The therapist leaned forward. "People aren't possessions, Maya. Alexander isn't Isabella's property. He's his own person, and so are you. Your feelings aren't wrong. They're just feelings." Over weeks of sessions, Maya started to untangle the knots in her head. The guilt from her family's manipulation, the grief over losing Isabella, the fear that any happiness she felt was stolen. "Isabella loved you, didn't she?" the therapist asked one day. "Yes, she was my big sister. She always looked out for me." "Then wouldn't she want you to be happy?" Maya thought about that. Really thought about it. Isabella had always been protective. Always wanted Maya to find someone who treated her right. To have a life full of joy. "She wouldn't want me to suffer forever," Maya said slowly. "She'd be angry that our parents pressured me. She'd probably punch them." The therapist smiled. "So maybe honoring her memory means living your life, not punishing yourself." Meanwhile, Alexander was doing his own work. His therapist was helping him process the accident, the coma, the loss of Isabella, and the impossible situation he'd woken up to. "I loved Isabella," he told his therapist, "but she's gone. And I'm still here. And there's this person who saved my life and my dreams, and somehow I'm married to her, but I don't know if what I feel is real or just gratitude." "Why can't it be both?" his therapist asked. Alexander blinked. "What?" "Gratitude and love aren't mutually exclusive. Real relationships are built on more than just initial attraction. They're built on trust, respect, shared values. It sounds like you have all of that with Maya. But it started wrong, forced. How can anything good come from that? Lots of things start badly and become beautiful. The question isn't how it started. The question is what you want to build." Alexander started thinking about that differently. He thought about Maya reading to him every day for 5 months. About how she'd protected his dreams when she could have just taken the money and run. About her laugh when they watched terrible TV. About how she made him want to be better. This wasn't just circumstance. This was real. 6 weeks into their separation, Mrs. Chen called Maya. "Come visit an old woman." "I'm dying to know how you are," Maya went. Mrs. Chen looked frailer, but her eyes were still sharp. She served tea with shaking hands and studied Maya carefully. "You're clearer now," the old woman observed. "Less clouded." "Therapy helps," Maya admitted. "And Alexander?" "I don't know. We're not talking." That was the agreement. Mrs. Chen smiled. "He's also clearer." "Less angry. More himself. The separation was good for both of you." "Then maybe we should stay separated." "Maybe. Or maybe you both needed to choose from a place of freedom instead of obligation." She poured more tea. "That forced marriage was wrong. I knew it at the time, but I was desperate and scared. I'm sorry for my part in that." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "You were trying to protect him." "I was. But I hurt you both in the process. You deserve better. You both deserve to choose each other, if that's what you want, or to walk away if that's what you need. What if we choose each other and everyone thinks it's wrong? Then everyone can mind their own business," Mrs. Chen said firmly. "What matters is what you two think. What you two feel. No one else gets a vote in your happiness." 2 months to the day, Alexander texted. "Coffee, no pressure. Just want to talk." They met at a small cafe near Maya's apartment. Alexander looked good, healthy. He'd gained back weight. His eyes were brighter. He smiled when he saw her. "Hi," he said. "Hi." They sat, ordered coffee. The silence wasn't awkward anymore. It was comfortable. "I've been in therapy," Alexander said. "Me too. It helps. It really does." They smiled at each other. Then Alexander took a breath. I've been thinking a lot about us, about what we are and what we could be. And I realized something. Maya waited, her heart pounding. I don't want to be married to you, he said. The words stung even though Maya had expected them. Okay, let me finish. I don't want to be married to you like this. Forced. Obligated with all this weight and guilt and circumstance. If we're going to do this, I want to do it right. Maya looked up. What do you mean? I mean annul this marriage. End it properly. And then, if you're interested, I'd like to take you on a date. A real date. Where we choose to be together. Where there's no pressure or obligation. Just two people who like each other and want to see where it goes. Maya felt tears building. You want to start over? I want to start right. No families pressuring us. No business obligations. No guilt, just us. If that's something you want. I want that, Maya whispered. I want that so much. Alexander reached across the table and took her hand. Then let's do it right this time. The annulment process took 6 weeks. The lawyers handled it quietly. Alexander settled the business disputes by buying out his uncle's shares completely. The foundation stayed under joint management because they both wanted that. Maya's parents tried to contact her when they heard about the annulment. Angry messages about throwing away a fortune, about betraying the family. Maya blocked their numbers. She sent a letter instead, telling them she loved them but wouldn't accept their manipulation anymore. If they wanted a relationship, it would be on healthy terms or not at all. It hurt, but it also felt like freedom. Their first real date was simple. Dinner at a small Italian restaurant. No fancy clothes, no pressure. Just conversation and laughter and getting to know each other without the weight of tragedy hanging over them. Tell me something Isabella wouldn't have known about you. Maya said over pasta, Alexander thought. I'm terrified of birds. Like irrationally scared? Had a bad experience with a goose as a kid. Maya laughed. That's ridiculous. It's true. Your turn. I can't whistle. Everyone can whistle except me. It's embarrassing. They traded stories like that. Small silly things. Building a foundation of normal moments. It felt easy, right, like pieces clicking into place. Over the next year, they dated properly. Movies and museums and weekend trips. They argued sometimes about foundation decisions, about whether pineapple belonged on pizza, normal couple stuff. They went to therapy separately and together, making sure they were building something healthy. The foundation grew. Keisha got into a top engineering program. Michael started his own computer repair business. Rosa became a tutor at the same school she'd attended. They were changing lives. On the anniversary of Isabella's death, Maya and Alexander visited her grave together. They brought flowers, sat in the grass, talked to her like she could hear. I think she'd be happy for us, Alexander said quietly. Isabella wanted people to be happy, especially you. I hope so, Maya said. I really hope so. They held hands and sat in comfortable silence, honoring the woman who'd connected them. Who'd loved them both, who'd inadvertently given them to each other. 2 years after the annulment, Alexander proposed. Properly this time. On one knee in Maya's tiny apartment with a ring they'd picked out together. Will you marry me? He asked. For real this time. Because you want to. Because I love you and you love me and we choose each other. Yes, Maya said, crying and laughing. Yes, the wedding was small. Just close friends, Mrs. Chen in her wheelchair, and the first class of foundation students who'd insisted on being there. No massive venue, no pressure, just vows spoken freely, with full hearts, by two people who'd found each other in darkness and chosen to build something beautiful in the light. Maya wore a dress she'd picked herself. Alexander's vows made her cry. Her vows made him laugh. When they kissed, it felt like coming home. At the reception, one of the students gave a toast. You two teach us that even when life goes wrong, really wrong, you can still choose to make it right. You can still choose happiness. Thank you for showing us that. Later, Maya and Alexander stood on the balcony of their new apartment, not the penthouse, somewhere that was just theirs. We made it, Alexander said, pulling her close. We did. Against all odds. You know what the crazy thing is? What? I wouldn't change it. Any of it, because it brought me to you. Maya kissed him. That's the therapy talking, he laughed. Maybe, but it's also the truth. They'd started wrong. In grief and manipulation and impossible circumstances. But they'd fought their way to something real. Something chosen. Something entirely their own, and that made all the difference.